Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Everybody Loves Bliss. I am Bliss, and joining me, I always point the wrong direction on the video, is my wonderful co-host, Ross Cooper. Ross Cooper, how you doing?
Was good. I'm good. I'm good.
Are you good?
Yeah. Went to the movies again and saw Judas and the Black Messiah again last night. It was still just as powerful and moving. So yeah, I'm pretty good.
Oh,
I'm fired up and wired up and ready to go. Like you
now was
can't
that about
watch
the
that.
movie or was that about the company?
We gonna do that? Really? We're doing that?
Okay, I just
All I said is I went to the movies. We gonna do that? No, it
when you
was
went to see another movie, excuse me, a movie you've already seen. I mean, I can't ask. The people want to know. The people want to know.
yes. I went on a movie date because she hadn't seen
Don't
it
blame
yet.
me.
So I was like, let's go check it out. So it was a
Okay.
great movie.
Okay, so you went on a movie date. Okay, are we going to share that whole thing at in our later episodes when we start talking about love and relationships? Ross
Lord,
has the date. Ross, hey, listen, I'm living vicariously through you. So
you
let
got
me.
18 months yourself. Let's keep that in mind.
Oh Lord.
You
Oh,
got 18
okay.
months.
You know what?
18 months, people.
Never mind. Never because we get ready to open up a can of worms. Listen, and this show is already we get ready to open up a can of worms anyway.
All right.
Yeah, let's get into it. Listen, last show the last show was actually titled Black versus Everything. And I talked about on the last show. Let me I'm taking it because I'm trying to tread lightly. Um on this
Have
particular
to.
subject. But the last show was called Black versus Everything. And I talked about on that show how this new trend or this highlighting of anti-Asian crimes, how it demonstrated the difference that I had talked about before. We, whatever side you're on,
Mhm.
had talked about before the difference in how the bar gets leveraged in terms of what constitutes a hate crime. So we were talking about not seeing a lot of media about Asian hate crimes, kind of hearing the hype, but not really. You were talking about, what you saw in your area, and I was talking about what I saw in mine, even though we had seen the stories about San Francisco and New York.
Mhm.
And not discounting, look at you pulling out your big old drink to drink on this one too, even though we're drinking two different things. But we hadn't seen, we had seen things like shunning and asking, what do you speak English, as considered a hate crime for the Asian community. And I said, and Lord, I did say we hadn't seen like mass shootings, which I
Yeah.
was not suggesting. Again, I was not suggesting we put that into the atmosphere, but I was doing a comparison of what happens with Muslims and Blacks and other groups. And here we are with this shooting that happened in Atlanta on Tuesday. On Tuesday, just a couple of days ago, where a guy goes into 21-year-old Robert Aaron Long. I always say their names. People say don't say their names. I want you to know.
No, say
I
their
will
name. Say
say
their name.
their
Put
names.
that out there.
Yeah, Robert Aaron Long, a 21-year-old Georgia resident, goes into three massage parlors and shoots up the places, and eight people wind up dead. Now, I know there were a considerable amount of women that were killed who were Asian. To be quite honest, I don't know exact numbers because wherever you read, you get a different number.
Yeah.
I saw six of them were, four of them were, I don't know. And I want to extend prayers and condolences to those families. I want to say that. Um, so they're calling this a hate crime because, and of course, it has just added fuel to this whole Stop Asian Hate and this whole movement to stop Asian hate. And of course, it's gained more media. In the few days since the incident has happened, there have been, oh, there's so many layers to this, but there was the police chief in Georgia, Atlanta. Was he the Atlanta police chief who made
Um,
he the problem with this is that we know that when a white male is supporting a white male, he's doing it under white privilege. So he makes a statement basically that this guy was having a bad day and flipped out, and on his bad day went on a shooting spree. That's freaking ridiculous. It is, you know what I thought about when I heard this, and I'm going to let you get into this. First of all, when I first heard about the let me be very honest. When I first heard about the shootings in Atlanta, I was afraid because I think black folks. So I was like, Lord, one of us done lost our mind. We done gone on a shooting spree. When I heard it was salon, I heard salon first. I'm thinking nail salon. Black, a lot of women get their nails done, but I know black women frequent nail salons, and most of the ones that I know of are Asian owned. So I was like, oh Lord, here we go. One of us has gotten on this crazy kick of, joined into on this violence and is going on. What is going on? Or was there a fight? Because what else we talked about was the fact that there has been a tense relationship between Asians and blacks for a while. We touched on that. So I'm like, oh Lord, did somebody get in a fight over they didn't like the nails done? Because we've seen that we've seen those stories, whether other people are aware of them. That's been going on for a while. The relationship, even though blacks support a lot of Asian businesses, beauty salons, hair supply stores, because a lot of black women, we wear hair. Um, and we support salons getting their nails done, the whole thing. And a lot of us wind up going to these Asian owned salons. So I was thinking this was a black Asian thing. I really did think that we were involved in this. But then I heard massage parlor salon. And I was like, oh, we're talking about something really different here. So I waited to hear more of the story. And of course, that's when we find out it's a white shooter. The salons are Asian owned, and I have to be very honest. Those that's a very different thing when you're talking about a massage parlor and what that means. I'm going to let you get into that, but what the police chief gave us was that young white guy has a bad day, flipped out.
sounds sounds about white.
Yeah. So he basically was making excuses for him. But he also said he did not believe this was racially motivated. And a lot of people are not accepting that. And I'm saying, and here's where, Lord, let me take another drink. I'm saying that there has to be a different consideration in this particular case based on some of the evidence that we looked at. So we're going to get into it. But go ahead and go ahead and say what you, because somebody's already mad at me for just saying what I just said. So,
Yeah,
but
it this is a very tense time, and the thing I personally am trying to not remind myself, but remind folks, because I'm always aware of it. We as non-white people have a common enemy, and that common enemy has reared its ugly head yet again. Um, America has its issue with its homegrown terrorists and these white guys with guns. It's Timothy McVeigh. It's now I'm not saying it's in the same vein as Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City, but yet again, you have one white guy deciding, I'm going to end some lives today, and doing so. And the bottom line is statistics show most mass shooters, if not, I think down there, every mass shooter has been white male. From the Asian side of it, it's a tough one because one, it's a tragedy, flat out. It is a
it is a flat out,
flat out tragedy. When we
flat out.
say this is a hate crime, now we gotta raise an eyebrow because it's then we get to very interesting nuance. Like
Right.
he's claiming sexual addiction from these massage parlors. These massage parlors, at least in these two instances, are almost primarily Asian. The marketing that you sent me of these massage parlors is very, very racy. I don't know why you need scantily clad women to advertise your massage
You're
parlor.
saying,
Let me explain one thing very, very quickly before anyone tries to leap that fence.
okay,
Under no circumstances am I saying anyone, any of these women deserve to die. And
right.
one of the things I'm also having a problem with is one thing that I have not heard yet, and you can tell me if you have. One of the other things that can be associated with some of these massage parlors is the sex trafficking aspect. And
What?
I'm not hearing that conversation much.
Okay. And that's exactly what we're getting where we're going with this, because I did not want to take this just at face value. So what you got into was the shooter, Robert Aaron Long is his name, claims that the reason why he did that is that he is frustrated because he's a sex addict, and that the issue with the parlor is where he would go to live out some of his sexual fantasies. In these places, he was able to do that. Part of the addiction is going to these particular parlors and I guess getting happy endings or getting maybe even having sex. I don't know for sure. I'm just assuming that's what was going on. And you said something, and you put it mildly, that the advertisement for these particular parlors was racy. It was straight up sexual. Very bare minimalist, but very sexual. We actually went to the sites to look at these particular massage parlors. There were two that I pulled up: Aromatherapy Spa in Atlanta and Gold Spa, and they're both 24-hour spas. They're both strip mall spas with like very neon lighting. And one of the spas actually advertised, "We specialize in Asian and Latin girls." So I mean, here's and again, I'm with you. I am not in any way victim shaming or trying to insinuate that these women deserved any of this. But in this particular case, I think what we're seeing in the media is that people are shutting down completely his sex addiction part. And what I did find out is that he had just been put out of his home the night before, his parents' home for his practice of his sexual addiction. And what I read was he was on looking at porn, and I guess I don't know. He was addicted some kind of way. He had been in rehab for sex addiction. He had spent a year in rehab for sex addiction. A 21-year-old had already spent a year in
Well,
rehab
praise
for
the
sex
Lord.
addiction. And from what I read, he had been in rehab more than one time for sex addiction. Um, and there's the religious element, highly religious. So, sexual addiction, confusion, frustration, and religious angst is a lethal
That's a
combination. It's
that's yeah,
lethal
that's a
mentally, but
powder keg.
right, it's a powder keg. So, what I am saying in this particular case is that the element of sexual addiction cannot be erased from this. You cannot, in this particular situation, discount it. And what I'm seeing in the media, in order to push the narrative of it being a hate crime, they're dismissing this other nuanced piece of the sexual addiction. And I think that here, unfortunately, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
I really
I
don't.
mean, you're
And I want us to examine that, because I think that what happens is that media pushes a narrative. The media's job is to push a narrative. And right now, the narrative to push is anti-Asian, stop Asian hate, stop. And I get it. I don't want us to discount that. If Asians are feeling threatened and being threatened and being abused, then that has to stop. I do think, though, it's very dangerous to discount this very important element of what this is, because the narrative of anti Asian hate is bigger and it gets more clicks. And that's where people are focused. You cannot, in this instance, especially if you've gone to look at, not only did I go look at the salon pages. Now, there was the third spa, Young's Asian Massage, which doesn't even have a website. But the review, I sent you the reviews. on the spot. I mean, they were men who had reviewed these places and talked about
Ooh.
having happy endings. There was one guy for one of the spas, I can't remember if it was for goals or aromatherapy, that said, I got more intimate than I thought was legal to do.
So that.
Um, there are men that go there specifically because they like to be touched by Asian women. And one guy was actually pissed off because he wound up with a black girl. And he said that he couldn't get hard with her because she was too rough. The listen, I'm just
This whole undercurrent is just.
there's a bigger under not bigger but very important element I want people to understand about this story. The women who were working this particular parlor, and seemingly, here's the other thing I'm going to go with. I don't know um, a lot about these parlors, a lot about massage parlors. I do know that they tend to be owned, or a lot of them are owned by Asian people, or the workers tend to be Asian in these places. So there's the element, like you said, that you have to ask what is going on in these places,
Right.
and is this a part of a bigger issue of sex trafficking?
It
And
absolutely.
not, and you know, it is not disrespectful to the plight right now that's going on with the Asian community to question this, because there are some really nuanced and important elements here that you cannot overlook in this case. Maybe there was a fact there's a quite possibility that the fact that the women were Asian had something to do with it, but here's the case, and I'm going to say it, it may not have. It may have been strictly the issue of the sex addiction, and this is the place where he went to, he could play on or act out on the sex addiction. And did you ever see that movie? Let me give you that movie with Michael Douglas called Falling Down.
Yes, that I've called it. Now see, and that, woo, it's funny you said that. When this moron police officer was like, he was just having a bad day. I immediately thought, we used to joke about it. We'd call it a falling down day. But the trick of falling down is he literally didn't kill anybody. That's the trick. Michael Douglas never killed anyone. But we call it a falling down day because it was representative of the worst possible. It was Murphy's Law in a day,
In a day.
right?
And the allowance of that film was, whether he killed anybody or not, it's a super violent film. He's super violent. I don't remember that he didn't kill anyone. I
That was the trick because he walked into the restaurant
Okay.
and ordered a burger, and dude was like slacking off, so on and so forth. So then he pulls the Uzi out, was like, "Give me my freaking burger." Gave him the burger, and he paid for the burger. Didn't
Well,
kill anybody.
what those films do is they give allowance to white men to have bad days and to flip out.
And it's it that way. Good point.
Because I mean, he's basically, I mean, because there's so much insanity that happens in his day, he's almost framed like a hero for fighting back. I'm fighting back against the man. I'm fighting back against the issues of the world, and I'm taking an
Mhm.
observation. I've had enough. He's framed like almost like a hero, because
Like,
you don't walk away from Falling Down hating Michael Douglas.
you
You
hate that he
hate the
got killed
day
in the end.
the way the film is framed, you hate the day he had. So this narrative about white men can have bad days and act a fool is part of the problem, that allowance. But herein still is the question still remains in this particular case, is this about somebody who really, based on what I've read, said that he was trying, in his mind, he was trying to stop the temptation. These parlors are temptation for men like him, so he was trying to stop. And let me just say this, because people are like, he's lying, he's using it as an excuse. I don't think he was smart enough to change the narrative.
I don't.
I
By
don't
the
think this
way,
guy was smart enough in that short amount of time to change the narrative. And I believe listen, and here's what I'm going to say, and people are going to hate me. I believe this guy believes what he said. I do not think that
oh,
this guy in his head went into those places specifically looking for Asian women. I think he went to the places where he acted on his sexual addiction, and the result, unfortunately, and the timing because of what's going on, paints the story that this is specifically an anti-Asian crime. And you could say that based on the numbers of Asian women killed, but the psychology of this guy, I think it's like when you see a crime, right? When you see a crime, a murder, and the murder victim is stabbed to death. If you know anything about crime, automatically that should, that's personal.
That's a crime of passion,
That's a
probably.
crime
Yeah.
of passion. 99% of the times when someone is stabbed to death, they are stabbed to death by somebody that knows them or has an intimate mental relationship with them. That is a crime of passion. So when I heard parlor and the specific places he went, those were I told you that too. I was like, this is weird, the location, because
This is this is
because
probably where he went to get off.
I wasn't even thinking about getting off, but there was it was very specific. So I knew, and here's what I said to you, and I don't mean to be callous in saying this, so please take this with a grain of salt, people listening. If I'm trying to kill a group of Asians because I'm on this anti-Asian thing, if that's my crazy mental state, I'm hating Asians. There are places that are more easily accessible, more readily known, where we think of Asians collectively being. I'm there that just was a very specific place. And if you're looking for numbers just to knock off a certain collective of people, there were places that, and I sound this sounds callous, but if he wanted to get a large number, there are certain places, there are restaurants you would go to an Asian restaurant, because mostly when you go to an Asian restaurant, everyone in there working there, and you have a large number in a restaurant. Even nail salon made more sense than a massage parlor is a very specific kind of thing. Not many people even know where, I don't even know where a massage, I'm sure they're here in the city I'm in, and I'm in a city, so I'm sure there, I just don't know where you would go for that. I don't,
Right.
but everybody knows where nail salons are. Everybody knows where an Asian restaurant is. And again, I'm not, please, I hope there's no nutcase out here listening, getting ideas, because that's not what we're feeding. We're having a real conversation that we need to have about what we're seeing. Okay. So this is what we're doing. Um, and again, just to say, this particular case is bigger than what you're hearing on the on in the media. And I know that a lot of folks are discounting that sexualized piece and that his sex addiction, but this person legitimately is a sex addict and has been in rehab and was
This
put
is
out
a
of his family's
document.
house. And let me just say this, it was his own family that called the police. They saw the video clips. His family called the police and said, he got a problem. He got a
So
problem, and this looks like our son, and he got a problem, and his problem is A, B, C, and D.
is now, because I'm thinking to myself, if this is not going to be as nice and neat as the media, and I want to stress the media, some people in the media, if this is not going to be as nice and neat as this is an Asian hate crime, what do we do with this? And some of the answers I came up with is we have to broaden the scope.
Mhm.
We have to not, we when you, I think to a certain degree, and anyone listening, please pay attention to what I'm saying. I think to a certain degree, when you just say this is an Asian hate crime, you limit the scope. No, no, no. There are broader things to discuss here. Because if this wasn't just an Asian hate crime, and I hate Asian women, now we have to ask ourselves what's really going on in these massage parlors. Now, for the record, I personally, wherever your morality is, that's fine. I personally don't have an issue with sex workers. I don't have an issue with that. But the question is, are they there of their own free will? Let's talk about, is there sex trafficking going on here? Let's
Mhm.
talk about why massage parlors open 24 hours a day. On another scope,
Okay.
like
Right.
you've mentioned numerous times, let's not all sit here and pretend tensions have not existed between our Asian and Black communities going back to the 92 LA riots and probably before then. Let's not pretend it didn't happen. Here's an opportunity to our AAPI brothers and sisters to say, okay, sadly, you're on the receiving end of this white supremacist hammer now. We know what that's been like, I don't know, forever. There is a chance for us to sit and say, look across the aisle. Let's do what the politicians do, but do it right. Because politicians say, never waste a tragedy. Let's not waste a tragedy. Let's use this opportunity to figure out where we can combine forces.
I don't, I think that the problem with that is that I think for some people, they think it weakens the narrative about anti-Asian crime. That anti-Asian crime is it. I think that for people, because I know that there are people who are going to be listening to this that are going to say that we're victim shaming by even having this conversation. And you know what? Let me do this. I'm gonna I'm gonna just for a moment, if I can. This is the first time of me ever doing this, so audience that's looking, bear with me. I'm gonna screen share the website because I want folks to see before it's gone, because it'll be gone. All Some of the reviews of the place have already been scrubbed. So I took screenshots of them. I didn't know if I was going to show them because the one of the sites actually shows the women very sexualized. And when you look at the picture that it shows, and again, these are not sophisticated, it's like a boudoir. So yeah, I think what you're saying is important. One of the things that the mayor of Atlanta said was that Keisha,
KLB, Keisha Lance Bottoms.
she was saying, well, these places, these are legitimate businesses and they've never been cited.
Is
Well, we
anyone
know a
looking?
lot of, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's like, it's never been cited. Is anyone looking? Just
I was going to say a lot of, we know that places like this, and I'm not saying specifically these places, there's payoffs. A lot of the people that frequent these places are politicians and people with police officers. I mean, I would not be
yeah.
surprised that the reason why it hasn't been cited is that it's the biggest secret that that's not, what is that, it's
It's hiding. It's hiding. It's a big secret. That's not a secret. It's hiding in plain
right.
sight.
So it's hiding in plain sight, and that people have known about what goes on in these places in Atlanta. And I mean, it's different from the strip, because strip clubs Atlanta has some very famous strip clubs too. So it's not that, but you got people, a different group of people that go into these places that probably are more high end and high pro. I would think. I don't know, maybe not. Um, I do have a screenshot of the play. What are you thinking? Should we share it?
No, I mean, it's either way. You know.
I'm gonna share it. I just want to share this particular one, just because I want you to see what we're talking about. This is my first time doing this so I am not good at any of these kinds of things. Okay, so this is one of the spas. This is what it looks like. At night, it's lit up in a neon. This is at a strip mall. This is how they advertise the workers. These don't look like your usual licensed massage therapist.
And
All very sexualized women. I mean, cleavage and boobs. And here's Asian Latin American Massage Spa Center. And I'm not doing the greatest job, but it's a boudoir. It's a,
and see if
I mean,
for context, anyone watching, go to Massage Envy's website. Go to About Face's website, and you'll notice a distinct difference.
right. This is not, oh, I need a deep Swedish. Oh, my athletic muscles are, no, this is very specific. And again, with the reviews, men talking about happy endings, men talking about they went further than they thought they could legally. Um,
It's speaking to a certain client, certain kind of clientele.
it's a certain kind of clientele, and there's a certain kind of thing that happens there.
Yeah.
So and again, we're gonna wrap this up, but we're gonna wait and see what is uncovered in this particular
Yeah. I
story,
mean, like I
because
said,
I think you just cannot. I'm sorry, people. The element, I'm not again, let me just sum this up. We're not discounting, you and I are both agreeing, the Asian fetishization of women. Maybe he was fetish, but there also may be an element of hating women.
true.
Women, just misogyny and
And
hate
that's and that's that's
because
not out of scope either.
right, because there's a temptation. And had this place been, black owned, but here's what I was thinking. Had it been black owned and it was, he went there. But here's the thing. Even if he was racist, here's how racism works. It's layered. The guy who went to the spa, and you saw it in the review of the guy who went to the spa. If I can find it, I'll pull it and show it. Who went to the spa, who was expecting the Asian girl and got the black girl and was like, oh, she didn't do it. She was too rough. I couldn't get hard. There are layers to racism. So even the races can who will have sex with, they'll have sex with races will have sex with somebody of opposite sex. That's not unusual. We know that from slavery. But there's layers to it. So if he had to choose, some of them maybe wouldn't go to a black owned place like this. They would only go if it's Asian or Latin, because there are some white men that are claim they're not racist but won't date black women but will date Asian or Latin because they see it different. So there's levels even to racism. So even with this, because I was given, maybe if it was black only and went there, we'd be talking about something else. But there's levels to racism. So you have
Yeah.
folks that are racist against black but it won't be racist against Asian, or there's a different level, or Latin or something. So racism is so complex too, that it opens up that can of worms. But I'm not even going to go there. But we got to wait for the story to open up, and see more. But while you're listening, um, also the one other element that you did not see in this, bigots brag. I have not seen one case where there was a mass shooting in a place where people were targeting people of a certain race and they denied that they were going after them because of their race. The mind of the bigot, when they make the decision to go after, they, I've not seen the story. I've not seen one. They were like, oh no, I wasn't there because they were black, or I wasn't there because they were Muslim. Yeah, they're very specific. Yep, I went there because I'm taking out Negroes and N words, and I'm taking
Yeah,
out.
Dylan Roof didn't walk in that church in South Carolina expecting to be a mixed bunch of people.
No, no, no. And I'm saying once they get caught,
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
generally hasn't been a denial of who they were going
Not at
after.
all. Not at
They
all.
generally have not. And I don't think, again, and I'm going back to this guy for this, I don't think he was smart enough to change the narrative. I
Nope.
don't. I don't. So, and before I wrap this up, here's what I gotta address, because we always gotta address stuff. You don't, some folks didn't like me saying what I said about the relationship between blacks and Asians. It is what it is. And I'm not saying this is every relationship with blacks and Asians. I'm saying there is an undercurrent of tension. One of the documentary films that's nominated for an Oscar is actually a documentary about Latasha Harlins, who was killed, was it in the early 90s?
I think it was yeah, 91 or 92ish. Yeah.
91, 92, in New York. That was a powder keg situation, because that divided New York City for a while, that case. 15-year-old black girl is in a store in her neighborhood. Now, keep in mind, she hadn't ventured into another neighborhood, but a store in her neighborhood, Korean owned, and she was accused of stealing
A juice.
juice. She turns,
$2 juice.
and the store owner shoots her in the back of the head and kills her and got away with it. So these stories have gone on, and that story is from the 90s. There's a documentary now on, it's on Netflix. It is actually an Oscar nominated documentary. So when I talk about these things, or when we talk about these things, these are, we come with receipts. So if you want to go all the way back to the 90s, you can probably find stories before then. That is a documentary that is now available. It's called For the Love of Latasha. I
I
think that's
think
the name of it.
so.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. So And the other thing is that on the last episode, I said something about I found the Asian culture, something elements of it very beautiful and very interesting. The art, a lot of things, and
Absolutely.
I said I found Asian. Korean Asian men attractive, physically attractive, and someone challenged me on, I thought you were down for your people. I thought you were sister.
Whoa.
Listen, let me get anybody listening to this real straight, real quick. Um, I am one of the most pro-black people you're ever going to meet. I love my culture. I love my people. I love myself. I love your shirt, by the way. That it
Oh,
says "Black women are the purest form of art." I love that shirt. I love the ode to black
amen.
women that you're wearing today. That doesn't mean I don't find beauty in other people. Doesn't
What?
mean I exclusively date one group. In fact, I've never dated an Asian man. Not saying that I would not, but that wasn't the statement, wasn't even about that. It was that matter of factly, I do find, oftentimes I have found men who happen to be Korean very physically attractive. If you think that that somehow
You
um,
ain't down with the brothers no more.
my shine as a black woman or my commitment to my folks, you don't understand me, you don't understand the message, and you damn sure have not listened to this show. So I'm going to ask that you keep those messages to yourself, because if you do, I'm going to start embarrassing folks by name. That's okay. Or you can come on the show and we can debate it. That's the other thing. But I'm just saying, I stand by the statement, and I'm still pro black, and I still can find beauty in other races. And if you can't understand that, then, you got some work to do. So, moving on, I think, yeah, we're going to watch that story. We're going to watch the story from Atlanta and see what happens. But Lord have mercy, the news, the news, the news. So, okay. So, was it last week, early last week, or the week before last? Oprah does an interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Let me be honest. I, I, I didn't watch
Let
because
me be honest. I didn't care.
I,
But continue.
okay, honestly, I didn't watch. I just didn't find, I just am not into that anyway. I'm not into the royals and what they're doing.
I'm still, Britain is a curious little thing. Before I cared about Britain and their royals, I'm kind of still dealing with the racism of their bastard child, America. So,
Well, I wasn't even going that deep. I just didn't think that was an interesting story. But since that story is aired, the aftermath of that story is what's
oh boy.
interesting. And let me just say this, because I am a panelist on another show and I was asked about it. And one of the things that I did say, and I'm going to double down on this. I heard Meghan Markle, because of course I saw clips afterwards talking about her experiences as a black woman with the royal family. But if that was even possible prior to being a royal, we didn't even know Meghan Markle was black. Meghan Markle was on TV here in America on a show called Suits, which I not really watched, but I'd seen bits and pieces of that. Meghan Markle was not on the radar of Black America as a black woman. We only knew she was black because she married into this family. And of course, when you marry into this family, as her wedding was coming closer, it had to be exposed because they saw her mama. So the conversation,
I'm a dog. I'm a blackity black.
right, locks and everything. So I mean, I think that if Meghan Markle could have continued to be ambiguous and not speak to race, she probably would have. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like this was a woman who was identifying and down with the culture. So I mean, this whole thing about her blackness, and I couldn't come to that. But because racism is what it is, as white as she got that black mama, so she's black, so it is an issue. So here stems the aftermath. And one of the things, the biggest story is the Sharon Osbourne conversation on a show called The Sharon Osbourne infamously married to, wife of, and manager of demonic rock star
Ozzy.
Ozzy Osbourne. And I don't think that's an insult to Ozzy to call him demonic. I don't think he's, trying to live that good old Christian existence. I don't think that that's his deal. So, Sharon Osbourne, who's a host on the talk, gets into the conversation of defending fellow Brit and journalist Piers Morgan, who made some statements about Meghan Markle that were misogynistic and racist. So Karen
Same about to say, same thing in this case, same thing.
basically defends Piers Morgan and does it in the most arrogant, white privileged, Karen, uh, insensitive, me first kind of way. She's having the conversation, and everybody knows the story, but I'm just refreshing. So basically, she's talking with one of the black hosts. Uh, what is the woman's name? What's the woman's name that she was talking to?
Sheryl Underwood or
Cheryl
Holly Robinson Pete.
Cheryl Hunt. No, well, she was talking to Cheryl Underwood. So Holly Robinson's not on the show anymore. We're gonna get to her. And basically is defending the racism. I mean, basically, and then asking how could she possibly be racist? She doesn't have a racist bone in her body, but she's defending the racist. And here's the ridiculousness of this, because what's happened again. This is the aftermath of the Meghan Markle interview. Is more interesting than interview actually. So here's the deal, because white folks, you got to know that the ridiculousness of Sharon Osbourne is that she claims that she didn't know what he said. I didn't hear the statements that Pierce made, but I can assure you he's not a racist. How the hell?
Wow.
How?
Wow.
Why are you defending? It's one thing to say, if somebody said to me, you did something crazy, right? Right, like Ross, did such and such. Here's what I can speak to. I've known Ross a very long time. I've never seen that side of him. I can't defend what you're saying he did, but legitimately, I don't know if he did it or not because I didn't hear it or see it. But the Ross I've known for over a decade, I've never seen that side. I've never seen anything but a good person. That's defending my friend without signing off on any of the bullshit you're being accused of,
There you go.
especially if I didn't see it or hear it.
That's all you got. That's all
That's
you.
all
That's
she had
all
to
you
do.
had to do.
Yeah, I've
Right
known
there.
Piers a very long time. I've never seen this side of him. I'm not aware of it, but I don't. I can tell you my experience of him is ABC, but I can't. If that's what happened, that I can't sign off on that. That's all she had to say, and keep it freaking moving.
You had
But
one job.
you had one job. But that's not what she did.
Nope.
She's going to defend him, defend what he said, declare he's not racist. What he said wasn't racist, all while saying she didn't know it, she didn't hear it, but she's determined she's going to defend this man. Defend, and now is claiming she's a victim. Was arrogant enough because the conversation got so heated. And let me just say this: I actually was watching the talk on this particular day. Cheryl's on the show, and there's another girl on the show. I always get her name wrong. She's new. She's also a black host on the show. I'll grab her name. But they're both on the show, and I have to tell you, I tuned out because I was like, this is taking too long, first of all. And they were very much tiptoeing around Sharon's arrogance. And it was annoying to me. It hadn't gotten to the point when I tuned out to the point of Sharon telling Sheryl she better not cry. It hadn't gone there. It hadn't gotten quite that nasty. But it was like this continuous circle they were going in. And Sharon, we know you as a friend, and we just, this is an uncomfortable conversation. When they should have been saying, look, the shit he said was racist. It's some bullshit. If you didn't see it, shut the F up. if defend your friend based on what you know, but keep your mouth out of this if you didn't see it and you didn't hear, because what he said was racist and misogynistic, and we as Black women can tell you what's racist and what's not. Shut the f up. Okay, so you had a good relationship with him. Well, we don't, and what he said was racist, so snip it in the bud. But they dancing around this. Oh, Sharon, we know you as a friend, and this is uncomfortable, and such and such. And what they to me, and again, folks don't like it when you tell the truth, but to me, it's almost like they asked for that arrogance from her, because you tiptoeing around this situation. This woman is clearly being arrogant. She's clearly not backing down, and that's what they should have done. They should have handled that shit early on. By the time I had tuned out to that show, they had gone on, it seemed like forever, going back and forth with her, not saying what they should have been saying. And she's getting more and more and more out of pocket. And I'm like, let me tune this out, because they come going to commercial and coming back. I ain't watching this craziness.
Right.
The fact that it got to the point where Sharon had the audacity to tell Sheryl Underwood she bet not cry. Cheryl's all emotional, trying to save and trying to bite her tongue. And Sharon is as arrogant as, this is because if anyone should be crying, it should be me, because I'm feeling like the victim. I mean, that shit was crazy. It was crazy. And now we are uncovering that Sharon has had a history of being out of pocket. But go ahead, because I know you. I'm all right. Plus,
It's,
I
it's, it's,
got my wine. That makes me a little
I've always said I'm thankful for social media and things like that because I think it does way more good in the grand scheme of things than harm.
okay.
You literally, all you had to do was shut up. All you had to do, if you couldn't shut up, was use the statement you just made. Like, hey, Pierce is my man. This is all. That's my man's in them. But I know him personally. But this thing you saying, I don't know nothing about that. So I'm just saying, what I know on him, he may or may not have did that. I'm just saying my relationship's not showing that. But nope, you had to go all defense mode, and here we are. And it's I don't know if it's more frustrating or frightening or both that at this point in time, certain white people can't read the room. And in 2021, we are still dealing with outward denial of racism. Just the obliviousness. I have no idea. What do you mean that's racist?
Is it?
How do you not know this now?
Is it it's about the arrogance, and it's also about what we talked about last week. Is that allyship? If Sharon was ever an ally, and based on what we know, she never was. But even those folks who we think are allies, who look like they're in the trenches, who are serious about doing the work, there's some point money, and in this particular situation, it's about defending another white person. It's like there's certain
Yeah,
places they're not I don't know what this is. I mean, I know what it is. I keep saying I don't want to say I don't know, but you're seeing that allyship tends to, with our white folks, has its limits. With Jane Elliott, we talked about last week, when it came to Black people getting equitable deal in terms of money, and really leveraging and fixing the issue in this country about the wage gap, and making up the leveling the field. She was like, for the first time in 87 years, like I said, stuck on stupid. And here, when it comes to whether it's between a Black woman and a white man, she is on code. Sharon is like, I don't care. I don't even know what he said. I don't know if he
I
called
just
her
know
the
he
N
ain't say
word.
that.
Right. Well, and I'm defending him no matter what. That didn't even make any sense.
It
But
doesn't.
but
It
except
doesn't.
that it's on code.
And it is tragic all the way around. And it's like now, again, I'm from the aspect of I really didn't care. I hate that she went through that, Meghan Markle. I know there's been some very I've got a couple folk I know that gave a very scathing, like literally don't care, because when you, as someone I follow put it, what you're mad about is you didn't get the white privilege you expected. I
Right.
don't know how I feel about that statement. I didn't examine it that deep because again, I'm too busy dealing with Britain's bastard child to worry about what Britain's doing per se. But and it does like you said, it shows the nuance and levels and layers to racism. Like, let's do some real quick math. Harry is obviously white. Meghan is half white. You have a kid that is going to be 75% white, and you are still concerned about the baby's skin tone.
Well,
Are you that stupid?
well, remember, it was the British that came up with that one drop of blood. One drop of black blood makes you black. So this
Like
kid has a little too much. 25%.
75, 25%. Like, have you done a Punnett square lately, you morons? Like,
Or is the issue that there's some black blood in Harry's that they were afraid was going to show up? Is that what we're worried about?
well,
There's some black blood there, or some. I mean, maybe. I mean, you know, you can't always go on looks, and sometimes it does show up at the. I mean,
this is
because to me, I was with you. I was like, he is white and red as can be, and she's white as can be. What are you worried about? He is going. This baby is going to pass the paper bag test no matter what you do. So,
right, but that this is how deep and I gotta say it. Racism, I cannot think of any more stupid thing. Like if you try to explain racism to a 5-year-old, they're gonna look at you like, what? Like this is how nuanced and stupid racism is. Someone's gonna be 75% white and you're worried about skin tone.
well, to me, again, and again, that none of that was surprising. The only part of that interview was surprising was that when she said she needed when she thought she needed some mental health
Hmm.
um, support, and she was denied that. That was the only part of that interview of the snippets I've listened to that was surprising. But back to the situation on the talk. Here's the problem that I'm having now with the aftermath is that this is continuing. Former host Holly Robinson Pete is now saying that the reason why she was let go of the show is that Sharon complained about her, saying she was too ghetto. And it's being alleged that Sharon made statements about Julie Chen, who was also part of the cast at one point, who's an Asian woman, called her slanty eyed. Sarah Gilbert, who is a creator, called her a pussy licker. I mean, I don't. I'm.
This is where reputation sucks because I gotta admit, with the knee-jerk response, knee jerk, without me thinking, I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something we should do. But I'm like, let me roll that back, try to use some thought. Like, I don't know for sure. But I'm like, sadly, given the history of what she's done, let's just say if there was a recording that came out, I'm not gonna be super, super, super shocked.
Well, she claimed that she never called Holly Robinson Pete ghetto, and that she's never even used the term. And now online you can find right from the show at the table a discussion that she had with Leah Remini, because Leah Remini is the actress who is a white actress who was also on the
Mhm.
show for a minute, went after Sharon about being proper and prim, and basically Sharon called her ghetto, or said she was, basically ghetto. She used the word ghetto after
Right.
Sharon said she had never used the word before. There are receipts of her using the word ghetto.
She
Um,
forgot. It's dementia.
what you know, I'm just wondering with all of these other allegations how she was able to get away with that, because Julie Chen is married to Les Moonves, who was the CEO of CBS.
Right. The
And
man.
he had to
So
step down before sexual harassment allegations. And Sarah Gilbert is the creator of that show. So if she was doing that, she was doing that to people who were signing off on it. They're telling it now because it's convenient to tell it. But if she wasn't calling Sarah Gilbert a pussy licker and lesbian, all that stuff to her face. And I doubt very highly she was calling Julie Chen whatever
hey, wait a minute.
derogatory
Wait a
Asian.
minute. For those keeping score at home, wait a minute. Sharon's gone 0 for 2 here because you have now offended the LGBT community and you offended Asians. Cancel culture, do your job.
Well, they're doing
This is a
well.
perfect
Well, and
opportunity.
here's what's
Do your job.
interesting: is CBS has put the show on hiatus and has not fired Sharon. Sharon is claiming, but here's what's happening. Sharon's claiming she was set up. I see. Here's the problem with this. The interview she did. She just did a interview with Kevin Frazier on Entertainment Tonight, because I'm summing this shit up, and she's claiming she was set up, and that the producer, before she went at some point during commercial, asked her to speak to the Piers Morgan situation. Sharon, let me just say this, honey. Let me, and I'm gonna take a sip of my Merlot while I'm saying this. Can't nobody set up that bullshit. I don't give a shit, and I'm sorry I'm cursing. I don't give a shit who asked you to speak to the Piers Morgan situation. They didn't tell you how to speak to it. They just asked you to speak to it based on the fact that you're friends with him. You chose to go down that road of supporting and aligning with that racist, misogynist bullshit. That
Right.
is the road you chose, and you would not back down. Nobody set you up. You have been asked to have uncomfortable conversations before, and you know how to have an uncomfortable conversation, or you know how to back away from things you don't want to talk about.
I
So you
mean,
chose that road. You were not set up.
but I mean,
You are
being
not a
anything.
victim. You tried to play the victim with Cheryl because she let you get away with that. And then we're going to speak to what Cheryl says since that time. And now in this interview with another Black interviewer, and I'm going to get on Black folks in a minute, you are trying to play victim again. You're not a victim. You're not a victim.
Wow.
You're not. And I think this is one place, because cancel culture, we talk about cancel culture doing its thing, and I've been pretty much anti-cancel culture. I don't give a I don't do a fell swoop of, yes, cancel everybody, cancel everybody, cancel everybody. I am all for canceling Sharon Osbourne for several reasons. This woman is continuing this fight by taking the same white arrogant privilege that she took on the show. I'm a victim. I was set up. You weren't set up. Take responsibility for the bullshit that you said. It is what it is. We all saw it. You're 68 years old. You know, you've worked with Black folks enough on that show. You have been in an industry that has allowed you to be around all cultures. You've traveled the world. You've seen all kinds of things in your 68 years. You are not naive to what is racist. You decided to defend Piers Morgan because you're on code with racism, and you forgot where you were. You got too comfortable. That's what it is. So in this situation, I am all for canceling Sharon Osbourne. And
I
again,
mean,
I am not.
cancel all racist.
That's not something I do, because I think cancel culture is dangerous. I think some of the stuff that we don't have time to get into today, the Pepe Le Pew and the Miss Piggy, all that cancel and all that bullshit is insane to me. But this particular situation, cancel. And here's what I'm going to talk about real quick. Sheryl Underwood was asked since that time what she felt about the situation. And I'm really disappointed that Cheryl is on the forgiveness train. And not because I don't think we should forgive, but I think that Black folks have this horrible thing of not wanting to hold white people responsible. Her statement was, and this is what I'm quoting, the vibe for me was, this was already forgiven and over as soon as it was said. This is Underwood said when asked about the atmosphere on the show. So she's like, I'm forgiven, I've moved on. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because by you saying that, it gives CVS more leverage to keep Sharon on and not deal with it. And it also says it's acceptable. And I don't care if this was your friend or you thought she was your friend. You can forgive her and still say, add to that, she's got to be held accountable. I just think that we do this thing where we don't know how to balance. And that's why it's harder for us to get justice. It's harder for us to get respect. Even Kevin Frazier, who did the interview, Black journalist who did the interview with Sharon Osbourne, did this whole thing where he tweets out this message of, we've got to come together and have conversations, and we need to have a summit. F your son,
Brother,
Kevin.
read the
And
room.
it brings in Michael Eric Dyson and Amanda Seals. And Amanda Seals, I don't
Ooh,
but
Amanda
Amanda
roasted
Seals
his.
handled that situation. If you get a chance, look at Amanda Seals' IG, her response to Kevin Frazier, bringing her into that conversation about having a summit with Sharon Osbourne. Sharon Osbourne sat in an interview with Kevin Frazier, softball questions that he gave, basically saying she was a victim. If Sharon Osbourne is still saying she's a victim, she's not ready. She does not deserving of a summit because she's trying to save a job. She's trying to save her job and her, I don't know how you save the reputation. That's what she's trying to do. She's not ready. So for to have a summit with someone who's not in a mindset of healing is ridiculous. And no black man, woman, or person at all should be asking for that for this white person. And I'm saying that as a person who understands. And I'm going to say this: I don't come from the mindset that the oppressor can teach themselves. I think the oppressed people are the ones that really have to teach the oppressor. Because I don't. It's from Pedagogy of the Oppressed. If you've ever read that book, the oppressor doesn't have the tools. They don't have it to completely do the healing. And why would you trust the oppressor to self correct? I don't trust that. So I do think that it is incumbent upon us to be a part of changing the narrative, of changing and helping the oppressor to get it, to heal, to get it right, but at the right time. Sharon Osbourne is not there. She's not there. She's still talking about she was set up. She's still talking about Piers Morgan as her friend. Ma'am, and Kevin Frazier and Sheryl Underwood, leave this alone. And Sheryl, if you want to forgive her, I think that that's great. Forgiveness is for self, but you also should have said in the same very definitive way that Sharon, you are in the shadows, man. I'm sorry. I'm looking at you.
Trying to get
In
into the
this back,
sun.
Cheryl, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get distracted. But in the same definitive way that Sharon told you, Cheryl, you bet not cry, you ought to tell her you better get some help. You got to be held accountable. I'm sorry. We just don't know how to balance this thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I know you.
No, that was it. That like I said, cancel culture, do your job. Now, the funny thing about cancel culture, I'm definitely not gonna, for time reasons, not gonna go too deep down that rabbit hole. But it's like, what does that actually mean? We don't just because ain't nobody gonna stop buying Black Sabbath albums. So if we never heard from Sharon again, while that'd be great, it's not like she gonna be hurting. But at any stretch, yeah, cancel. Like I can go the rest of my life and never hear from Sharon again, and I'm good with that.
She's canceled. And let's go here. This one last one. Um, Stacy Dash. Because we're
That hurts. That hurts. She is so
a
fine.
measure about how we do this. So Stacey Dash, um, black actress from Clueless. That's what most people know her from. During the Trump years, very arrogant, very pro-Trump, very anti-black. This is a black woman, very anti-black, very pro-Republican, very cancel Black History Month. We don't need it. All on the ridiculousness train, has now apologized for her antics during the Trump years.
Um,
Um,
go go sit yourself next to Omarosa. Like,
I mean, talking about she was she was angry. She was, painted as an angry black woman at the time, and she was angry. No, you weren't painted as an angry black woman because you distance yourself from your blackness. She's half Mexican and I think and half black, so she distanced herself from her blackness, participated in the antics, supported the most racist, vile commentary. She supported it against George Floyd. I mean,
so
she was
she was
horrible.
Candace Owens before Candace Owens.
Well, she wasn't before because we didn't know about Stacey Dash. Like Candace Owens kind of has been doing this thing a little bit longer than Stacey Dash, and we don't have to
Oh,
unfortunately go into the Candace Owens and Cardi B. We'll save that to the next show. But um, this is one where when we talk about cancel culture, I don't know what she's apologized for. Like, because what does she want? This is one where it's not even cancel. It's like, we're not, it's just not, I mean, it just felt like nothing. Like, it's not even about canceling her because she had already been, quote unquote, again, I hate that, I really don't like cancel culture, but she had, we had already let her go. Like, she had distanced herself. This is not even about canceling. She distanced herself. She decided, she picked the side. She was very public and very clear. She picked the side. It's white Republicans. It's white is right. It is, that's where her support went. So this isn't even about canceling her. It's about whether you bring her back. That's what I think.
I
It's like,
gotta.
okay, now I want back in. That's what this is about. And I'm, you know what, Stacy, because we don't even have a lot of time today, I'm gonna bid you adieu.
I mean, I will quote the great poet O'Shea Jackson, also known as Ice Cube, in
Mm,
his song "Be True to the Game." And you might have a heart attack when you find out the black folk don't want you back. Yeah, you about to live that.
yeah,
You about to live that. And
because I know she was having a hard time finding work. I know she claimed she was broke.
oh, go holler at Omarosa. She kind of walked your path, and see how that worked out for her.
Or
Well,
can't, or maybe,
Omarosa kind of sort of got a all right.
yeah, but you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say because it's not even a matter of canceling her. It's just a matter of,
Like we've been moved on, Stacey. It's so sad, so sad. I watched More Money way more times than I should have just because she was in it. But oh well, that was '92.
and now it's 2021. It's a whole different beat.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's a nothing. It's just nothing. It was just like you, it's nothing. That's it. It's
Like
nothing.
you should have. Your phone call should have probably started with Tyler Perry. Like that's probably who you should have called first.
Why would he so Tyler Perry is not, I don't think he's gonna soil his I mean, we already went over
I'm just saying, because if
about the
you go,
vaccination. I think Tyler's like, look, I didn't
I'm just saying, because if you're trying to find work, you need to call somebody that is, that might rock with you. So call Tyler.
all
See,
those
check the temperature there.
all those white men that she married on one had one night stands with and married. It was like three of them. That, and that's by her own admittance. All that, I guess I don't know. She's run through. I don't know. I don't know what we talk. Well, it's nothing. I don't. There's nothing to that except I don't know who's going to take that chance. What I you
Yeah.
already gone. So we ain't got, you don't have to be canceled. So that was my, cuz I wanted to answer that cuz someone asked me about what I thought about that. So that's my answer. There's no answer to that. It's just like, "Oh, okay. Thank you for the apology." Okay. Okay. I mean, that's it. Do we
Yeah,
have time to hit
that's
one last thing?
not really looking
Okay.
at the.
We're
Yeah.
at a time crunch cuz Ross has got a appointment. Well, I'm not going to say where, but
Lord, see now I almost got to because you making it sound shady. Like I'm going to a
no,
massage
no,
parlor or something,
no,
yo.
no. Let's hold it. Why are you in the shadows as we wrap this up?
Because the sun done moved. I was good earlier, but the sun done moved, and
Listen, sir, we are, this is we trying to be professional here. You
I
all
know I had natural light to highlight my melanin. I was gonna be all
we
melanated,
can't
catching the
see
vitamin
the
D.
melanin. We see,
Yeah, I know, man. My bad. My
oh
bad.
Lord have mercy. I try, y'all. I try. But you know what? We're gonna wrap this up because we are we're at our what? We're at our 1 hour mark. We're trying to keep the shows a little dense.
Nah, we had a $1.20 right now.
We at what?
We had an hour 20.
Are we?
Yeah, it be funny how time flies when you having fun. We had an hour 20.
Gosh. Okay. Well, we're gonna
Yeah.
wrap up. I want to thank the audience for listening. Again, if you want to comment, you can comment. I mean, I don't always like what y'all say, but but you can comment. You can reach us at the email is everybodylovesbliss@gmail. Subscribe, people. We're on YouTube. We're on SoundCloud. We're on Apple We're any place you listen to a podcast, we're there. So anyway, we are wrapping this up. And listen, if no one told you today, we want to tell you we love you. and we wish the best for you. And we thank you for tuning in to this episode. Bye. Say bye to the people, Ross.
Peace.